Hello, fellow Pops. I'm Dr. F. Scott Feil, and I'm bringing you a message from our sponsor at Ice Shaker. My diet's always been a little bit messed up most of my life, and I recently started trying to take back control of my health. And one of the issues my doctor pointed out was that I needed to make an increase in my protein intake. Now, I can't eat chicken breasts all day, every day, so protein shakes and powders have become a big help. Ice Shaker and its built-in removable agitator is an amazing product. They come in a bunch of sizes and colors, and you can even get inscriptions and logos on them. They're stainless steel, double wall insulated, and hold ice for 30 plus hours. If you're interested in purchasing one, you can click on the link in our show notes. Or if you're interested in selling them for your business and making commission, and let's be honest, if you're listening to the Professors of Profit vlogcast and you can consider yourself a pop or a professor of profit, you're likely interested in selling these as a side hustle. You can click on that link in the show notes as well. Or you can reach out to me directly on social media. I'm pretty available there. I love Ice Shaker, and I'm betting you, your patients, and your clients will too. Ice Shaker, let's shake things up. Now let's start the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Professors of Profit vlogcast. I'm your host, Dr. F. Scott Feil, and I've got a crazy story with us today. Somebody I enjoy talking with immensely every time we get together because he's such an entrepreneurial mind. He's definitely outside the box, which is what we're all about here at Professors of Profit. So I want to introduce to you Stephen Dunn. I'll just say entrepreneur. I mean, physical therapist, business owner, outside the box thinker, all those boxes are checked. So I'm just going to leave it at entrepreneur. And let's start with your story a little bit here, Stephen. You kind of started out in the physical therapy realm and added on some Pilates. So let's go into that journey. Let's start there.
Sure, man. Thanks for having me on, first of all. But yeah, I've been a physical therapist since 1998. And I got into the Pilates world in about 2002. So quite some time ago now. And my first few years in the Pilates realm, I was working for people, and then I opened my own contract business. So that first kind of entrepreneurial bug was from reading the book Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And after reading that, I went to the person I was working for and I said, hey, will you pay me as a 1099? And he's like, yeah, sure. That saves me on some taxes. And, I'll pay you a little more per hour. So we worked out this deal, and I started learning a lot about starting a business. And in that process, I was looking for more work, and I was looking for work in Lake Tahoe because I was living in Los Angeles at the time. And I was going up to Lake Tahoe and basically offering people, hey, I know you work at your little clinic that it's just you, mom and pops, and like, why don't you go out of town for 2 weeks and let me come and run your clinic and see your patients while you're gone. And so I was looking for a contract gig like that. Again, very different, out of the box, because I was doing contract work in LA, and I could do what I wanted with my time. I could take 2 weeks to do that. And I met this guy who called me because I left my resume with him a few times. And he's like, hey, do you have any Pilates experience? And I didn't. And the conversation was over pretty quick. And I started looking into it. And I realized real fast that if I had what I found with Pilates in Los Angeles at that time was that that was something that was very applicable to physical therapy and something I could start using with my patients right away. So my wife and I, at the time, she was my girlfriend, we went through a Pilates certification way back again, 2002 in Santa Monica. And after we completed that certification, I went to one of the people that I was doing contract work for. He had 16 clinics, and I was like their fill-in guy. So they'd call me at 7 a.m. and say, hey, go to North Hollywood. Hey, go to Mission Hills. Hey, go to Burbank. Hey, go to Glendale. And by hopping around for them, I made a lot more money than if I just worked for them. And again, they paid my 1099. It was a great setup. I went to them and I said, hey, let me use this little room in the back that's just a break room that people watch TV during lunch. And let me start a Pilates program. And my boss was like, again, I say my boss, the guy that was in charge of the clinics, who was, even though it was my own business, he was still my boss. He's like, I hadn't thought of that. And I said, let's work out a profit sharing deal. Every dollar that I generate in this room, I want this amount, and you're going to pay me my normal wage per hour, and we'll work out a deal, and let's see how that works over the year.
Entrepreneurship, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
And he was like, I don't have to do anything. you're providing the equipment, you have the education already, you and your wife are going to do this. And my wife basically she had a full-time job, so she would go in and work after hours and during lunch because she worked right on the corner. And it really worked out great that before you know it, we had this space where we were building basically generating income for this company that was not generating income on their own. And that was my first, like, okay, now I can do this on my own instead of doing it for him and giving him that percentage, because he was still getting a lot of percentage, but he was paying the rent, he was doing the marketing, he was doing all the stuff I didn't know anything about. And that was kind of my introduction into, like, all right, now if I'm different in the physical therapy world, people are willing to actually come see me, stick with me, go from seeing me to seeing my wife for Pilates training. And I started noticing that, this is a little different than people coming to me for PT and hating being there, which is what it was like when I was working prior to these situations. And so it was kind of rewarding to see that people loved coming in for myotherapy and Pilates. It was a great combination. They stuck around long term. And I realized that, wait, there's a wellness component to this, and people are going to stick around. And so we rushed to Austin to set up our business and start doing it on our own. So we moved from LA. I took a travel gig up in Sonoma for a short time, and then we came here, and we've been here since 2004 doing, we got here in 2004, started renting a room from somebody that was about to close down, a PT that was shutting down their doors. And it was kind of like a trial of the area and if I wanted to be in that spot. And then I found a spot down the street that was cheaper and more space. And I moved in 2005, and we've been a Pilates physical therapy studio ever since. And, I don't call ourselves a clinic. I don't call ourselves an outpatient, facility. I call it a studio, because it's, again, about this kind of whole transformation of someone coming in, doing the myotherapy, because that's what I love. The PTs that work for me, they do their own version of what they love. And then they introduce people to Pilates. We all introduce people to Pilates through the rehab, using the equipment, using the concepts, the breathing. And it really, really helps people. And it really works in a way that they see improvements in their posture. They see improvements in their flexibility. They see improvements in their strength, and they want to keep coming back, instead of it being that grudge purchase of going into PT, or that grudge of like, I got to go to PT today. And then that's been kind of the story. And now I'm at a place where I've been doing it for so long, and I'm stepping out of the realm of doing all the work. And I've got Andy working with me, Dr. Andy, who's awesome. He's been with me for 3 years now, is also Pilates trained. I've hired a guy, Danny, and I have a new girl, Claire, coming in to work with me. And when these people come in to work for me, they want to come work for us because we're one-on-one, and they get to spend time with people. And I give them, as a part of their package, a Pilates program that teaches them, when they get there, how to use that equipment, how to utilize what we're doing. Because if you come to work for me, that we don't have regular PT stuff. It's a Pilates studio and a gyrotonic studio, something totally different, but it's two systems of exercise that, like, there's not the traditional, there's no treadmill, there's no bike, we have a small little private weight room, but it's just totally different. So if you want to work for us, I learned this. I brought someone in to work for me who was into CrossFit, and it didn't work because he wasn't interested in Pilates. He loved the one-on-one, but so when people come to work for us, it's a part of the compensation package, is that you're going to get this training as a part of it. You're going to watch it digitally. It's all online. And then you're going to do these trainings with my wife once a quarter to take what you're learning on the video and what you're learning with your patients and start applying it with someone who's been teaching it for 20 years. And that's been our kind of journey with Pilates and physical therapy, merging the two. And now when anyone comes in the door to see us for any reason, they're going to be thrown on that Pilates equipment through therapy in a way that introduces them safely and for what their condition and specific needs are. Yeah. And then by the end of their therapy, we got options for them to join our group classes, our private sessions, whatever it is they're their financial situation is and time and what they're looking for and their physical needs. And then we kind of guide them through our funnel of PT down to private training, down to group training. And people actually do their, actually, let me back up. People don't do their homework, as we all know, but people will actually come and do their class that they're paying money for because there's some skin in the game with paying money for it. And they leave feeling good versus when they do some of their homework that we've taught them in PT, they don't always feel better right away. They don't always feel that encouragement to do it. They don't have someone standing over them, holding them accountable, making sure their shoulders aren't like this while they're doing arm exercises, or their back is in a terrible position while they're doing leg exercises. So that's kind of the story. But to sum it all up, the guy who called me from Lake Tahoe to he basically wanted me to buy his practice. And if I didn't know anything about Pilates, I was useless to him, just like someone coming to work for me, it's useless. And he was very gently like, okay, thank you, hung up on me. Well, 3 years later, he came and started working for me. And now he's like a head dog at USA. Dr. Tom Warner, what's up, buddy? So I appreciate that guy calling me and basically saying, do you have any Pilates experience? And me saying no. And he saying, okay, thank you. And then 3 years later, 4 years later, because my clinic offered what he had to do, what his certifications and training was, he came in and asked me for a job. And that was the funniest moment at that point in time.
Yeah, it's crazy how things kind of come full circle. And one of the things that I love that you've done in order to kind of sort of exit the business to work on it, not in it, is your diversification, right? I mean, you've literally set up courses to help people start a business with Pilates involved. You've done courses for training people who want to do Pilates for physical therapists. You've done, like you said, group work. You've done solo one-on-one work. You went from discharging people to really just transitioning them into a wellness management program, right? I mean, just several different layers of diversification there. For all sorts of profit and all sorts of ways to keep the business up and running and healthy, right? And then we take a real left turn at Albuquerque, as Bugs Bunny used to say, right? And we go from PT and Pilates to storage units, right? Tell me about this journey now. Tell me about this next stage in your life.
So as you were mentioning, with me getting to a place of really being the CEO and stepping out of treatment and having all these other options and ways to actually train people to come work for me, so that I don't have to spend all the time one-on-one doing it. It's all set up and ready to go. It's allowed me to step out of treating patients. I still treat a handful of patients. I have like 5 to 6 people a week I see, just because I like talking to people and I'm not quite ready to give that up. But I'm about to give my room up because of the new PT coming in. So I don't have a room in my clinic. So with that, I've kind of forced myself out of a job, which is great because I've been tied to that job at Core for a long, long time. And I love it. It's been great to me. But I realized that during COVID, it was really a challenge because I was being told what I couldn't do. And I wanted to find something that wasn't reliant on lockdowns. I wanted to find an industry that basically was strong during the last recession in 2008 and 9, and then was strong during COVID. And self-storage is what I found with my research. And I basically started spending 2 days a week, 3 days a week working on self-storage, and another 2.5 days a week on Core and 2.5 days a week on the self-storage venture, and splitting my time to basically okay, let's find something that no matter what happens in the future, no matter where the things go, storage is the number one asset through all of the craziness that we've had over the last 15 years that is coming out. We're right in the middle of it again, right? And with that said, I almost bought some storage units when I first moved to Austin, because it was something through reading Rich Dad Poor Dad was always on my mind as this way of passive income. You set it up and people pay you every month to store their junk. It just sounded great. And I almost bought a facility when I first moved to Austin, but I didn't, because I didn't understand the game. I didn't know what it really was going to take. I didn't really know how to run a business other than my contract business in LA, which was really not that big of a business. It was totally like just me and what I wanted. And so I ended up spending my time focused on core for the last 20 years instead of buying that facility. And that's been great, but I really have always sat back in my mind and wished I would have bought that, because that facility is about a mile from the Tesla plant where they're now building Teslas. And it's like the biggest plant in Texas. And it's literally a mile down the street from where I would have bought this property. And the property I was looking at was a 6-acre property that had just one row of storage, and the rest was wide open for me to build more or do whatever. And now that area is completely changed 20 years later. And what I could have paid for it then versus what I could have like done with it and sold it for is a totally different story. But that is what it is. And I missed that boat. But now I'm basically spending time learning the storage industry, learning how to find a facility that's for sale, how to basically do a evaluation of the business. What's it worth? Because storage is different than, it's a real estate class, but it's different than real estate, because it's different than residential and commercial, because it's basically a business that's backed by the real estate. Okay. So I always like to say with storage, it's kind of interesting. You can have a 5-acre lot and have 100 units on it. It's going to be worth this amount. But if it has 500 units on it, it's going to be worth 6 or 7 times more. Yeah. So it's going to be worth a lot more if it's already done. So I'm in a place where everything I've learned is how do I find a mom and pops who built this storage unit 20 years ago. They're afraid of technology. They don't have a website. They're afraid to raise the rates. They've been having people paying 30 to 80% under market for years because they don't want to lose 3 to 5 people raising the rates. Well, I want to buy that from them, and I want to raise the rates 25%, and I want to take it online. I want to do all the stuff to modernize it that people are actually looking for. They want to be able to do everything with this. And the majority of mom and pop storage owners, they're not into that. And so, but what's happened, we're in this place where when I started looking and studying and storage 6 months ago, the interest rates were 3%. And then within 3 months, the interest rates were 7%. And so we're in this place now where everything I'm finding, it's not penciling out with my evaluations because the interest rates have jumped so fast. And the people selling and the brokers and the people that have been making a lot of money through COVID, they made a lot of money in this industry through COVID. They're now like, they're like, hey, what's going on? They're still trying to press the way it was, and it's not the way it was. It's changed. So that's the reality of it. So I haven't bought my first facility. I am talking to brokers. I am mailing out letters. I've sent out, 500 letters to owners with a list that I've bought. And I'm just trying to find that mom and pop that wants to sell it to me, instead of dealing with a broker who's going to charge them more. And it's going to cost them more to use a broker. And I'm partnered with these people who are basically, they've been in the game for 15, 20 years buying facilities. So I have a partner that has bought over 200 facilities in the last 15 years. And in that process, he can't go out and find any more deals. So he trains me. It's kind of like, if you think about entrepreneurship and business, he's like, I have a mentor now that's training me how to use his software that he developed on how to plug in some stuff. And within about a minute of me looking at what's called an offering memorandum, an OM, within about a minute, I can plug it into my computer. And if it doesn't meet this certain qualification for me to get a loan, move on to the next one. Yeah. And what I'm finding from evaluating hundreds of deals over the last few months is that number hasn't worked yet, because again, we're still at this point of what's going flux. On. Yeah, exactly. Just like, think about what's going on everywhere right now in the housing market.
And what's crazy too is what you just explained demonstrates what we had talked about earlier, that most businesses are more alike than they are dissimilar, right? Like you had people come in, you mentored them and trained them how to use your system for physical therapy and Pilates,
Bingo.
and now they're off doing it because you just can't do it anymore, right? So now
Bingo.
you're on to your thing, and it's the same
It's the
exact
same.
business model all over again, just different players and different assets. You know, it's crazy. I love it.
Exactly. And that's what's so fun. And I'm learning in the same way that I've been learning over the last 6 years. When I switched to a cash business and I started studying with people online, doing online courses, I'm now doing the same thing. I have a mentor in Florida. We meet on Zoom once a week, and he gives us a list of stuff to do. We have a coach accountable account that gives us the stuff to do. We got the videos to watch. It's all prepared for us. They guide us through it. Now they're like, okay, now you're ready for your mentor. So we just started with our new like mentor for the next 6 months. And basically what we've done is it's almost like a franchise. We've bought into their franchise, but they're not the franchise. They don't have a model. They just have a system. We're buying into their system so that when we buy something, we're going to name it whatever we want to name it. We're going to use their systems. They're going to be partners in it if I need their money.
Yeah.
Well, I'm probably going to need their money the first deal I buy. My plan is to buy 2 or 3 deals a year and then make these changes. And then in 3 to 5 years, start flipping them so that in 5 years, I will have accumulated 15 properties. And then I just start selling. And then it's a matter of doing a 1031 exchange with your profits from selling one real estate and rolling it into another bigger property. And my eventual goal is to start buying land and building the big fat daddies.
Yeah.
But that's about a 2 to 2.5 year process of no income. And you got to have some deep pockets to do that. And I'm not ready to do that because I've been a PT for 20 years.
Yeah.
So with that said, that's where I'm headed. And as I start flipping things and I need to put money into things, it's money that's mine that I don't have a note on. Boom, I'm going to buy land. Boom, I'm going to build. Boom, I'm going to sit for 2 years. And then as soon as I build that asset that I might have, say, 5 million in, I can sell it for 20.
Yeah.
You can't do that in the PT world. And so that's the game that I'm playing. But here's what's interesting. By learning to evaluate self-storage, I now know how someone evaluates my business if they want to buy my business.
1,000%.
And what it's really done for me in the last 6 months, it's shown me what I have to do to make my business sellable so that in 3 to 5 years, I can sell core and go all in real estate assets. But right now, core's not worth much, even though I've been successful for 20 years running this business here, 18 years in Austin. But we're not we could sell it, but it's not going to get me excited. And what I've now realized is I can play this game of systemizing, which I'm doing. Everything I'm doing is about selling my business right now. And I now realize is that I'm gonna buy a building to put my second location in for core. And what I realize is if I can have 3 locations, the amount that I can sell my business for is significantly more than if I just have one.
Yep.
And that's what I'm learning, not only from what I've learned about self-storage, but just what I've learned in self-storage and now what I've been listening to in the PT world. And I'm like, okay, now I am so much more educated as a business owner by learning about evaluating businesses, because now I can evaluate any business. What's your expenses? What's your profits? What's your gross potential profits? And then we can create an idea of what it's worth. And so it's really been fascinating, and I'm super excited for the learning. And core is going to be way better and worth way more as I step out and am truly that CEO.
Yeah.
And it's been a fun process. It's hard, man. I've been moving my stuff out of my office every few days. And it's like, wow, I've been working in this room for 18 years and it's weird, but it's a step that I'm ready for, and I'm ready to go the next step. And it's great because what's going to happen is I'm going to have opportunities for people to invest with me. And if people are willing to come along this journey with me, I'm going to be able to help people make some money too. And that's what I'm excited about, because I'm going to make some money through this. But what I've learned through these deals is that there's going to be enough deals that I'm not going to have the money for all the deals. And once I learn the game and do a few, I'm going to start opening that door up for people that say, and I can say, hey, these are the 3 properties I've done. This is what I've done. This is how now I can, you invest $50,000 and you're going to get back, $125,000 based on the history of what we've done with this project. And that's kind of exciting to think about, creating investment opportunities for people that don't want to have anything to do with owning it. Yeah. I want to own it and manage it and flip it. I want to be the guy like you watch on on the flipping channel, yeah. The HGTV, yeah. That are buying the crappy houses, flipping them, and then selling them. But for me, the flip's about a 3-year process. And in that whole process, you're making money. You're making cash flow. You're not losing money. You're making money. But here's something that's fascinating with self-storage. If you buy a facility for, let's just say, $1 million, and you raise the rents to where you're bringing in, like, let's just say you raise the rents 20%, 10% even, and you're bringing in just an extra like $5,000 a month, the amount of money that $5,000 creates on your total what the property is worth is mind-blowing. All of a sudden, as soon as you $1 million property, you raise the rates where you've generated another extra $5,000 a month. It's like $300,000 to $400,000 of instant equity in that building, and that's fascinating to me and mind-blowing to me. And that's what owners are afraid to do right now. They're afraid to raise those rates. Just like, oh, gee, are PT owners afraid to raise their rates when they're doing cash?
Yeah,
all day long.
Everybody is. All business owners, I think, battle that fear at some point.
I agree. So I'm super excited. I haven't bought my first storage unit facility yet, but I'm all in to do it, and I'm going to do it. And through the process of what I've learned, I'm making my PT business more profitable for when I do sell it. I'm going to buy my next 2 office spaces so that when I do sell, I'm going to still be collecting rent from the person that buys my business, so that I'm going to still be paying that asset, but it's going to be getting paid. Someone else is going to be paying $1 million asset for me.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. It's crazy to think of, but really one big takeaway from this episode is, most PT practices, the money is actually in the real estate, in the business, in the building itself that houses the PT practice, right? Yeah. Because that then becomes an asset where you can collect rent, and then once it's paid off, you're really collecting, right? Or you can sell the asset, right? It's like McDonald's; they own every plot of land that a McDonald's is on across the nation, right? So they're really a real estate business more than they are a fast food business. That's why they're worth so much,
They're a real estate business disguised as a cheeseburger business.
Yeah, man. It's wild. It's wild. So, if any practice owners out there take anything from this, I hope the first step is that they look into buying their property to house their PT business.
I wish I could have done that 18 years ago. And I looked at it at the time, but no one would loan me the money because we had just gone through, they loaned me, let me back up. When I moved to Austin, they loaned me the money because it was pre-crunch on the real estate crunch. They loaned me the money with no job, with low interest to buy my house, but they wouldn't do it to buy a commercial space.
Yeah, makes no sense.
Because my business didn't have any history, but they didn't care about me. Which again is what led to the problem in 2008 and 2009.
Yep.
I bought a house in an area of town for $250,000 that I really couldn't afford, but within 6 months I could. And that's when I immediately refinanced my balloon. Whereas most people waited that 5 years and they're like, wait, what do you mean I owe the whole amount? They didn't really understand what they were signing. Yeah. And that was one of the things from starting to get educated from some of the books that I read, that every book that I read about business, like Rich Dad Poor Dad, was like invest in real estate.
Yeah.
And invest in passive income type of things like again, washaterias, like
car washes,
and those things where people just go put their money in and you just go collect it. And storage is interesting because people say, well, why would storage do well during COVID? Well, how many people had to create a home office all of a sudden? How many people had kids move home that used to be in college.
Yeah.
How many people's life got disrupted during COVID to
Yeah.
where they needed a storage unit now? Even people that never had a storage unit needed them during COVID.
Yeah.
And the same people that had them before, they needed an extra one.
Yep.
And so that was one of the things that was kind of interesting. And then they also said that, like, what I've learned through this process, they're like, well, what about millennials? They live in tiny houses. They're not, do they need storage? You know, we want the baby boomers who are just keeping grandma's crap for 20 years. And then as soon as they all die, it gets given away or thrown in the trash. And that's really how a lot of people make a lot of money in storage. But the millennials, what they do is they're experience driven, right? So they live in a tiny house or a small apartment, but they got a bike, they got a canoe, they got camping gear, they got stuff to go have fun, different than the 50 to 80-year-old crowd. They don't store that kind of stuff. They got houses in the garages to put that in. Yeah. But the younger crowd will store their stuff, and they'll go get it every weekend. Yeah. Whereas people my age will put stuff in storage and they won't go touch it until next Christmas, and then the next Christmas, and the next Christmas. Yep. That's the one time of year. So it's a really fascinating business, and it's like I started asking people, hey, have you ever had storage? Do you ever have storage? I would say 90% of the people that I've asked if they've ever paid for a storage unit at one point in their time, the answer has been 90% of them said yes. And so again, it's kind of like, well, have you had back pain before? Have you had back pain before? Yep.
Oh, it's wild, man. Well, Stephen, thank you so much, man, for coming on and telling your journey. Like I said, it's a wild one. I love it. I hope people will learn from it and really, take into thought and mind that, hey, we can do other things. Like we can, there's so many opportunities out there. And I just hope people are starting to see that and are starting to think outside the box, But where can people reach out to you and find you online or get in touch with you if they want to invest, or if they have any ideas on adding Pilates to their business, or, whatever it may be? Where can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, for sure. For my Pilates business, I have lots of podcasts and blogs and information about getting certified in Pilates, the steps, and, just like, why would you do it? All kinds of information. I've interviewed all of the people that were influential for me to get into Pilates. A lot of them are physical therapists. They're not all physical therapists, but it's just information for people who might be saying, hey, why would I want to do Pilates in my physical therapy practice? And it's a website called pilatesforpts.com. And that's where I have a course where we've had physical therapists from North Carolina, from other parts of Texas, Louisiana, where they've purchased our online course. And basically, like the course you and I made was more about marketing. Yeah. The course I'm talking about is now they can actually get certified, because what I learned when the course we made, everyone wanted to get trained to do it. They didn't really want to know what to do with it, because they wanted to get the training first. Yeah. And so the Pilates for PTs is where people can actually go get trained. And you don't have to be a PT to do it. If you're a PT, once you go through our training modules, you're going to be able to use the equipment. You're going to want to have access to a reformer to use in the clinic and to practice with. And you're going to be able to have plenty to do with a patient in a therapy setting. If you want to get certified, then that becomes a situation where you do observation hours and you go take a standardized test. PTs, they're not always interested in doing that. If you want to become a professional Pilates teacher, then you can do that. It's set up to get you through an actual national certification process. Awesome. But PTs, you don't really have to go through all that. You can learn something and start really utilizing and diving in. So that's the place where I have a lot of free resources. And then we have some courses on here's how you get certified. Now that you're certified, information, the stuff we went through a few years ago on steps to get people in the door with your Pilates certification, how to use a Pilates teacher as an aid if you're taking insurance, things like that, and just, again, thinking out of the box with how you can bring a Pilates instructor on instead of a tech and utilize them to make, you can charge $100 an hour for a Pilates instructor. Can you charge $100 an hour for a tech? Probably not. I don't know anyone doing that. Nope. So if you want to reach out to me on Facebook, I'm on Facebook, Stephen Dunn with a PH. Looks like I'm on my wife's, it says Cheryl Dunn under my name. I'm on my wife's, so just realize that. And just as far as I'll say, if you're interested in any of it, just reach out to me, send me a DM. I'm all over Facebook. My business is called Core Therapy and Pilates. I've got a YouTube page where it's all about my therapy business. I have a YouTube page which is hosting those same podcasts. So I'm out there. You can find me, and again, I'll make sure to send you some information to links that you can share.
Yeah, we'll put all the links in the show notes so people can find you easily. Again, Stephen, thank you so much, man. Like I said, always a pleasure chatting with you. I always learn something. Look forward to doing it again in a couple of years, maybe once these storage units are rolling and
totally start talking about where we're at once we've kind of gone through the process.
Yeah, I love the follow-up.
And I'm excited to have you living in Wimberley, about 45 minutes to an hour from me in Austin. We got to meet in actual person a week or two ago and have lunch with me, you, and Dr. Andy, and sit there. And that place was smoking, man. That was good stuff. And got to walk around a little bit and show Andy the Wimberley. It's such a cool little town. It's just so opposite of Austin and so opposite of the rest of Texas. So it's just great. So
it really is, man. I mean, again, being from New York, I never thought I'd end up in Texas anyway, right? But now here I am, and of all places, this little 4,000 population town, like, not my style, but man, I'm loving it. You know, the hill country is beautiful. The swimming holes are great. People are great. So I love it, man. It doesn't look like Texas, that's for sure. But
no, it's a definitely unique spot. So, well, great chatting with you, F. Scott, man.
Yes, sir.
We'll do it again soon, and I'll talk to you later, buddy.
Awesome, bud. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right, man.